Hello everybody, it's DH Thorne here. In keeping with my new policy of making more videos per week and keeping some of them a bit shorter so that there's a little bit more variety and length and content, I'm writing this video script with the intention of it only being about 10 minutes or so in length, but without sacrificing anything meaningful. And speaking of things that are meaningful, one of the things I specialize in is private consultation services, helping you with your spiritual issues, magical questions, life coaching, things like that. And more than doing magical ritual, I enjoy doing this most of all. I love talking, about people's magic, about spirituality, and helping people and honest seekers to understand my perspective and maybe help them understand their own a little bit better. It's one of the reasons I enjoy making these videos and writing so much, and not just for the act of it. It's really fun to do this. And very often in the course of these endeavors, people will compliment my gnosis or my way of describing things or how much they agree with what I'm saying or doing. And many of you tell me, I feel like I knew this already. I knew what you were telling me, but I couldn't sort it out. It's like you found a way to explain to me something I already knew, something natural, something in a way I could finally understand it, something that was natural inside of me. And I find it amusing because when I was first making true contact with the deeper mysteries of spirituality, I remember thinking the exact same thing. I would listen to people like Alan Watts or Joseph Campbell or Terence McKenna or, Carlos Castaneda or, Coetting, Kane, and so many of you other people out in the community, when I was getting back into this. And I remember thinking many times, I know this already, but I didn't know I knew it. This is what I've always been doing, or this is what I've always been thinking, but now it's in perspective, or now I have an idea of how it fits together. Now I can express it better. And it dawned on me at some point that what I and many of you are experiencing when this is happening is what I like to call the true guru, the inner guru. You see, none of us personally are gurus. And I mean none of us who are doing what I'm doing, whether you're talking about me, you're talking about the Buddha, you're talking about Sadhguru, you're talking about, all the people I mentioned, any of these people. None of us are gurus. Those of us getting up on here making these videos and writing books, we're not doing this to be gurus. We're not gurus. We are people who enjoy the act of communicating these ideas. None of us, not one. But there's something more to it than that. When I say that none of us are gurus, a lot of you are hearing that and thinking that I mean this in a humble kind of way. You think that this is some kind of display of superior humility, as if I'm saying I'm not a guru as a way to brag to you how well I know my inferior place as a mere mortal with flaws in this. Because a lot of you guys, if you think that, you're still trapped in a delusion of humility being a virtue. You still kind of think that a guru is meant to fill some kind of a box. If you're imperfect, how do you know what perfection looks like? You know what I mean? And a guru isn't meant to be perfection. So as I've said before, people who are aware of their humility and praise themselves for it or make a show of that humility, it's not really humility at all. We all know that. It's false pretense. It's false humility. But it's basically just ego that's found a clever way of cloaking itself for other people. The more you try to act humble, and maybe you can be very convincing about it, the more you're proving you're not humble. But that's neither here nor there. No, the point isn't that gurus are so humble and therefore they say they're not gurus. When I say none of us are gurus, and I'm not even trying to say that I am, but when I say none of us are gurus, it's because there's only one guru. There's only one true guru, and that guru is you. Only you can teach yourself the lessons of the situations and events in your life and give them meaning. Because without that capacity, everything we experience is just noise. If you hear my words and they hold, any kind of special meaning to you, it's because you already know the meaning behind those words. Your inner guru is already teaching you, or it's already taught you what it means. And the noises I'm making out of my mouth are just aligning with the wisdom that's already in your mind. It's something you already understand, but maybe you just couldn't figure out how to put it in words. Because truly, all I'm doing is sitting here making movements and making noises and, yammering into a camera microphone, and hopefully the audio is good because I don't have to reshoot this. It's you who take those noises and those experiences, those mistakes, failures, and successes, and you find the patterns in them and you give them meaning. I don't do that. I do that for myself. But you need to do it for yourself, and that is what the guru is. So I'm not a guru. Nobody is. Only you. I wrote a story here. I remember when I was spending the summers upstate in the Adirondacks. I was, and this is actually relevant to your life too. This isn't just some kind of hippy dippy story about hiking in the woods that's supposed to be an object lesson. But I would often go hiking along the same trail. And my parents, my grandparents had 100 acres in the Adirondacks. It was really freaking cool because you'd walk around. There was a state preserve behind the property. We're talking the Adirondacks. It's one of the biggest state parks. It's one of the biggest parks there is. And you'd go exploring, and I'd see animals, great old trees and parts of the forest that hadn't been touched in, 100 years or more. Like, and people have been living there a long time, and they've deforested it a few times and it's growing back. But some of those trees are 2, 3, 400 years old, possibly, however long a tree can live. Big fat guys, things that have been there, giant old oaks and hemlocks and things. So on this one path that I used to like to walk, it was a little bit more treacherous, and there was this exposed root in the middle of the trail, in a dense part of that trail. And I could go around it, or I could do other things. For some reason, I always managed to catch my toe on it and trip over it. And, it was like week after week, I'd be lost in my adventure, and I'd sag my toe on it over and over again, and I'd end up sometimes having to stumble to avoid it, And I knew those woods really well, and yet I kept nailing myself on it. And it was like, I'd be carrying swords for practice in the woods, self-reliance tools, knives, hatchets, saws, because I want to make camps and stuff. I could have removed it, but I didn't want to. Why bother the tree just so I could walk where the tree already has its dominion? Why should I do that to the tree? It wasn't like I was putting a house there or something. So it was almost as if I wanted to keep making that same mistake over and over. And I already knew it was a mistake. No one had to teach me that. I already knew it was a mistake. I already knew it was there. I knew what needed to be done, but I had no idea how because I just kept doing it. And at last, it just kind of clicked. I figured it out without realizing it. I discovered it by accident because I was just kind of running the trail for fun one time instead of walking it. And I found that, turning the corner near where the root was really kind of tricky to slow down and stop and then go back the other direction. It was actually easier to run, only slow down a little bit, jump, and then kick off with one of my legs off of this ridge that was there. And I found when I did that, I didn't hit the root. And I was like, well, that's weird. And then I realized that by doing that, I kind of changed my pattern of footfalls, if you will, so that my feet planted in different spots, and I just naturally stepped over that root and I didn't hit it anymore. So I realized that by doing that, I had kind of solved the problem. Instead of having to remember the thing I didn't like, instead of having to, distract myself while I'm looking at beautiful nature walking through the woods, instead of distracting myself by worrying about this root coming up, I could instead remember the part that was fun, which was running along and skipping off of the fun part, and that would just naturally propel me into a situation where I pretty much almost never hit the root anymore. So I realize now that, that story has a lot of potential lessons to it, but one of them is that my inner guru taught me something. I already knew what to do. I knew I had to avoid the root, to pick my foot up over it, to find a way around it. But I had no way to express that in my actions until I kind of let go and let my inner guru teach me what it already knew, to find an experience that matched with what I knew and then use that in my life. So, I already knew the solution was a good idea, or I wouldn't have recognized it as such. If that happened and I didn't recognize it as a good idea, I might have just done that maneuver once, running instead of walking. So I had to have an inner guru, an inner moment of enlightenment, of gnosis, of eureka, as they say. So this is the nature of spiritual gnosis and gurus the world over. When you're working with spirits, when you're doing your work, you're summoning demons and they're giving you ideas and gnosis and inspiration. That is the light of the guru. That is the guru teaching you. And of course, you have to recognize the lessons for what they are. This is synchronicity at play again. This is why synchronicity is such a key element in spirituality, because our lessons are often synchronistic in nature. They're not written out things that you read and know and suddenly you get it. They're synchronistic experiences that you, in this mystical way, recognize as having meaning instead of just being random occurrences, okay? So no one in the world really teaches anything. We make noise, we create situations, we challenge each other and ourselves, and the guru within, through the great mystery of consciousness, patiently waits until the right moment to admit that it knew the answer all along and teaches us to inherit and integrate this lesson into who we are. And some people will call that, what the higher daemon, all these other things, your guardian, personal angel, personal guard, whatever it will be, whatever that is to you, or guru. I like guru because it's a little bit more secular in nature. It doesn't imply any specific religion, even though it's a word that is used in a certain culture. It's not like that. It's guru just basically means teacher in a way. So, this is why I think, and this is why to me it's taboo in many traditions to claim the title of guru. That is the deeper reason why. It's not because it's, you lack humility and you should always be humble. No. This is because the very truth of the matter is there is no guru. And when you understand that, you have an epiphany, a moment of revelation, a moment of empowerment and enlightenment. Through no amount of effort can I force an idea into your mind. All I can do is keep making these noises and these videos until you recognize what's there as something that's inside you already. It's in this way that the light of enlightenment, the light of Lucifer, is our guide. It doesn't teach us anything. It reveals to us what is already there. Anyway, guys, this also reminds me of one other story. The root story reminds me of, I'm sure most of you can relate to running through your living room and stubbing your toe on a coffee table, right? It's the same kind of thing. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and check the description below for ways to support me. Until next time, mind the shadows, because that's where the secrets truly lie.